everybody. You are listening to the History Boys. As usual, I am Christopher Whedon, and I'm here to tell you about a product that's very important to me. It's called our fucking podcast, History Boiz, that you were listening to.
Before I was on and listened to the podcast, however, I'm gonna try History Boy here. I was a loser. I had no shoes because I couldn't afford them. It wasn't a choice that I made. It was something that I needed shoes. Now I got shoes. I got multiple pairs. I'm a huge success. I believe in this product.
Yeah. Also, there's supplements that you got to take.
I take a lot of supplements.
Oh, we got supplements. Oh, there's some History Boy supplements we're going to be selling you guys.
It's powdered beans.
Yeah. Comes with a bean blender.
The patented History Boy bean blenders.
Yeah, you can only you could all the bean blender is a History Boy.
It's true.
Yes. It can't take canned beans. Gunk up the works.
Zach.
We have Zach back. We have all of us back.
Yeah, all four of us.
Reunited, all of us.
Reunited, and it feels so good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's all right.
I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy, as always. Thank you so much for listening. I'm pretty excited about today's episode, gang.
Oh, yeah?
It's one that I've kind of planned on doing for some time.
Yeah.
At least a year, as far as I know.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. I mean, she is one of my favorite historical figures.
The Queen.
But yeah, at least a year.
Queen
the Queen.
There you go.
It's either the Queen or a boat or maybe the ocean.
Yeah. All harsh mistresses.
Yes, it's true.
Harsh mistresses all.
Yeah. Now today we are doing Nellie Bly. Nellie Bly was a pioneering journalist, specifically investigative journalism, and she would like go undercover and like expose wrongs in society and things like that.
Like Geraldo.
Geraldo wishes. He was Nellie Bly.
Yeah.
Just put makeup over his mustache.
Yeah.
And put something of consequence inside of Al Capone's vault.
Right.
And we're halfway there.
Yeah.
He puts rap music and blames it on the inner cities.
Yeah.
From what I understand.
Yeah. He's a
piece of shit.
He's
anyway, so if I remember correctly, Nellie Bly was featured prominently in our Blackwell's lunatic asylum episode from last spooky season. So this is like very timely as we're coming into October. If you guys are listening to this, it will be October
1st-ish.
October 1st,
I believe.
I agree with you, Jerry. It is October 1st when the episode comes out. Yeah, can't wait for everyone to hear it.
Jerry was correct, and the other person who was correct about that particular day was Tyler.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Very true.
Moving on.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Nellie also had the famous bandage under her eye, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. When she was in Blackwell's, actually, in the summer, hot summertime, summer in the city, she was in there, and it could be quoted as "It's getting hot in her."
Yeah.
Right.
And that was actually because it was all women at the time.
Right.
But she was on the rooftop and the birds were feeding.
Is that one of his lyrics?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, you're really limited
with the boots with the fur.
Is that also him?
Is that Nellie?
Is it? I think it is.
This is a very white podcast.
Oh my god, yeah.
When I was in New York, a guy at the Comedy Cellar kept making fun of me for being white.
Flo Rida. Sorry.
And he kept like saying names of rappers, and he'd be like DMX, and he'd like lean right into my face and be like, DMX, that's a country music singer. You don't need to worry about it. It was really good.
Well,
a giant fucking blonde by choice.
Yeah, the carpet does not match the drapes. So everyone at home, if you want pictures of Chris's pubes not matching, you just email us at historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. We'll send them.
No, I bleached my pubes as well.
Well,
I've gone Super Saiyan.
The joke's on me.
Downstairs too.
That's where all the yelling comes from.
Well,
Yeah, my neighbor's pissed. I'm charging up.
God damn it.
this would be a good time to go back and revisit that episode on Blackwell's Island. Because we really covered it on that episode, I'm not going to go super into that. We're going to focus more on Nellie's life in this episode. But Elizabeth Jane Cochran was born on May 5th, 1864,
Alias
to
alert.
Michael and Mary Jane Cochran.
Okay.
She was born in Cochran's Mill.
Oh.
Or, sorry, Cochran's Mills,
Oh.
plural, Mills, plural,
More than one mill.
Pennsylvania. And why
She
was
was
it
born in
called
two
Cochran's Mills? Because
So-
her father, worked his way up, started as a laborer, worked his way up, and bought like a bunch of mills in the area, named that area of town after himself, and it was Cochran's Mills.
He worked his
Right.
ass off in the mill, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, bought the mill,
By
bought
Right.
a
his mill
second
straps.
mill, by
Yeah.
his mill straps, bought the mill, by his mill straps.
Yeah.
Also
Uh,
invented mill straps.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really used today, but in your milling days, they sure were.
Nor were they at the time. No matter how many state fairs he took them to.
Get your mill straps.
He's like, you know what the problem is? This state fair, they're not seeing it. I got to take it to the World's Fair,
Yeah. That's
and
why
that's
I
where he was
gotta
put to death
go. Yeah, right.
for his outrageous ideas on mill straps, straps in general.
Nellie was, well, Elizabeth. She wasn't named Nellie just yet. Elizabeth was 13 out of 15 children.
It's too many.
Yeah, that's because Michael had 10 children with his previous wife,
Oh.
and then had
yeah.
5 more with Elizabeth's mother, right?
Mhm.
It's a lot of kids. And yeah, she was sort of middle, sort of at the end there. I don't know, when you have that many kids, I don't know if you're like a middle child, if like a bunch of them are just middle children or
Yeah.
what.
I think you're just abandoned. You're just
Yeah.
raised by children at that point.
I thought you were going to
Absolutely.
say a band. And I was like, yeah, it's like your Arcade Fire at that point.
I mean,
Oh.
I guess that too.
Or Partridge
The
Family.
Partridge Family. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Partridge Family. Come on. You can start a.
Or the New York Yankees.
Yeah. They're more like a family, though,
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
or the Fast and the Furious crew.
Yeah.
There you go.
Family.
Sitting around a picnic table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elizabeth was named, she was nicknamed Pink by her, people that were close to her because she wore pink a lot. She wore bright colors all the time. And people say, like, this in contrast to like sort of the drab colors other people were wearing at the same time, And like they described her as like having a bubbly personality too, so kind of went along
yeah.
with that.
So she's just like legally blonde.
Yeah.
Not quite. She like there was a word that came to be synonymous with her, and that was plucky.
Okay.
She was plucky.
Okay.
Although I
Well,
don't think
pluck.
you'd ever call a man plucky, but still.
You call a boy plucky.
Yeah.
Would you?
But,
You're a
yeah, I
plucky
mean,
little
a plucky
You know.
young man, plucky adventures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a
don't know.
dashing rogue could be plucky.
Yeah, isn't
Maybe.
Plucky Duck male?
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
is-
yeah.
Yeah,
He's
Okay.
the
Oh,
duck
there you go.
in Tiny Toon Adventures.
exactly.
I guess I
Yeah.
just never hear it in that context.
Yeah, me neither. I barely hear it in any context.
all that old timey speak.
Mm-hmm.
It is old timey. But when her father died suddenly in 1870, she was 6 years old. His estate was sort of in shambles, and they didn't end up with a lot of money. So basically, like, her mother kind of struggled. They moved a little bit. They went to this other area. All of this is like outside of Pittsburgh. That's now like a part of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Her mother remarried, but it was a really unhappy marriage. The guy was he was an abusive alcoholic.
As was the
Um,
style at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got a divorce. And back in the day, laws were way skewed towards men during divorce proceedings. But Nellie, or Elizabeth at this point, like, took the stand and testified. to like a court about like what a dog shit dude this guy was, you know, which is sort of telling, you know, like
this piece of shit
young teen.
So did they because of the time did they frown on what a piece of shit the guy was and then do nothing, or
no? I mean, they granted them the divorce and whatnot, but
okay.
she still, you know, didn't have a lot of money. Like they sent Elizabeth to Indiana Normal School, which was a boarding school, and
they sent her to Blackwell's for reporting an abuser.
Yeah, exactly. No, Indiana Normal School. Yeah, it was a boarding school. But she only, normal school. Yeah, she only attended for a semester. She was actually barely educated. She could write extremely well, but like she wasn't really a good student aside from that. You know,
she got street smarts.
Yeah, it was the only formal schooling she ever had.
She's really good at talking shit, it sounds like.
Well, and
I mean it in a nice way. That's badass.
And writing down the shit that she was talking about, the sound of things, you know?
She's like, I'm going to write this down so you can remember it.
Yeah. But yeah, she had to come out of the school because they couldn't afford it. That's why. And so, they were moving around, but it was around this time that Elizabeth added an E to the end of Cochrane, just to give it a little bit of like class, you know, have like a silent E, you know?
Yeah. The modifications are beginning.
Yeah. The modifications. Johnny Cochran have an E at the end?
I think so.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
I'm not going to Google it, but I'm pretty sure.
This isn't an episode on fucking OJ Simpson. Let's move on.
We've been too many things have covered him. Okay, I just
there are a couple podcasts that have talked about him, I'm sure.
Yeah, Elizabeth read an article in the Pittsburgh Dispatch that was entitled, quote, "What Girls Are Good For." And in this article is basically a chauvinistic diatribe that talked about, you know, how girls were basically good for nothing except for child rearing and keeping house.
Yeah, and they had cooties.
So Elizabeth was enraged by this article. So she wrote them a response, you know, that went off on them, like tore their head off, you know.
Right.
And she signed it Little Orphan Girl. Like, oh, poor me, poor, you know, like Little Orphan Girl, you know.
Ooh, she's a little sass factory.
Oh yeah. No.
Seriously, Jesus.
This is also during a time where, like, you know, women always wrote under pen names, which is super. Yeah. I mean, it just shows you the times, right? And we'll kind of get into that later. Instead of like writing a response or even printing like the letter, they sent out like an announcement, was like, "Hey, who's Little Orphan Girl?" And she answered, and she went down to the offices and they offered her a job.
No shit. Wow.
Yeah. And so her first article was basically, I'm gathering like a redone version of that response. And it's all about like how, you know, women don't get high paying jobs, you know, like all of these things, you know, and it's like, we can do the same sort of work, you know, it's that sort of level, like that wave of feminist sort of thought, right?
Yeah.
Very groundbreaking for the time, you know, speaking truth to power in a lot of ways. Yeah. And she was a success, but they kept wanting to relegate her to like the women's interest section of the newspaper.
Yeah, she got typecast.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
She's way Lois Lane, I feel like. They're like, she's like, I got to get the big scoop.
Right, because otherwise you're writing about, you know, high society and like the gossip columns, or you're writing about home and garden or like things like that. And it's like the whole time she was like, it's nauseating and I fucking hate it.
She's like, I don't give a fuck about any of this shit.
She's like, I got an article for you. And then she just pulls out a switchblade and it's like, dare me to not pee standing up right here, motherfucker. I dare
you. Just open bleeding on the grass.
But she had to pick a pen name, right? Because, you know, all women needed a pen name.
She picked J.K. Rowling.
God damn it.
She picked Nellie Bly.
Mm.
It was after a Stephen Foster song called Nellie Bly that is extremely problematic in the year 2022, let me tell you.
That sounds about right.
Isn't all of Stephen Foster's stuff problematic?
Most of it, but this one, I mean, is a straight up minstrel song where they're like, and they're straight up singing about like how happy they are to like sweep the floors and da 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 da.
Jesus
it's
Christ!
that like it is that level. You know, it's a reason why nobody plays this song anymore. You know,
Yeah,
it is.
It's. I believe the song is about how the slave's happy to be sweeping the floor, but the master just needs him to get out of the way so he can marry this 13-year-old. And he just keeps on getting in the way, cleaning the house so good. He's so happy about it.
Well, there's a whole verse about phrenology, which
it's written in a condescending, like black style speak. You know.
Yeah,
that's way
I'm
I'm
looking at these lyrics right now. Holy
it's
fuck.
Extremely. Yeah, read me some of those lyrics.
Okay, the opening lines, Nellie Bly. I'm going to just read what it's written. Bring de broom along. We'll sweep de kitchen clean, my dear, and have a little song. Poke de wood, my lady lub, and make de fire burn. And while I take de banjo down, just give de mush a turn.
Yikes.
What the fuck? What?
Yeah.
That needs to go deep inside the Disney vault.
Put those crows. And that one centaur, you know the one.
Yeah, I know the one.
Well,
I have YouTube.
Well, here's what happened though. Is that one of her first articles, they actually misspelled the name that she had picked. So instead of Nelly, like it was supposed to be from the Stephen Foster song, it's Nellie, because that was the way they misspelled it. But she rolled with it, you know. So.
Yeah, I kind of think it's better.
Yeah, disassociate from that.
Oh yeah. I mean, back then it was, it was a popular song.
Yeah, like it's fun.
So.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
It's like when Blurred Lines came out.
No. I was going to say it was like when my pen name was Dr. Feelgood in the late 80s.
Yeah, there you go. Now, she, in her articles, she rallied for women's rights. Even, I think, later, she actually interviewed Susan B. Anthony.
Yeah.
She wrote about the divorce laws at the time, something she had experience in. She did all of these things, anything to get away from those women's interest topics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the age of 21 years old, 21, she goes, I have to do something that no one's ever done. You know, I got to do something crazy. And she goes, I'm going to go to Mexico. And so she goes, and at this time, Porfirio Diaz is in control of Mexico, you know?
Right.
And she goes and she reports on it. She has no experience. She doesn't speak any Spanish. And she's like, I'm going to stay there for 6 months. She took her mom with her because they were like, you got to take someone with you. You can't just go alone. Because her original plan was to just go alone.
She's like, I got my 22. Does that count?
She actually, with some of her reporting that she was sending back, the Mexican censors actually found some of her dispatches and they caught them. And they were like, hey, what the fuck is this? Because they had very strict laws about no foreigners involving themselves in their politics at all. And that means writing about their politics is enough.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So
I assume that she told them that she's like, these are going back to America. I guarantee Americans don't care about what's going on in other countries.
If you think Americans care about Mexicans, then
you got nothing coming, buddy.
Yeah.
So a warrant was actually issued for her arrest, and she, fled Mexico. And once she was safe across the border, she wrote about how like Porfirio Diaz is a tyrannical dictator who oppressed the Mexican people with his press censorship.
Hey,
and
all true.
Yeah, all true. So yeah, that was like her foray like into the time just before the revolution, like the sort of second revolution gets going. It's pretty interesting how that comes together.
So at this point, she's crossed through, in a way, 2 different History Boys episodes.
Oh, there's more to come. There's more to come.
Yeah, she's gonna be like Nick
she's
Fury.
like if Forrest Gump wasn't an idiot.
Oh, I was doing Marvel. Or Wong if it's Phase 4.
Yeah.
Wongers.
But she
just because
wanted...
you two don't know doesn't mean our fans don't.
I know. She wanted bigger and better things, though, and she knew that the Pittsburgh Dispatch would keep, trying to regulate her, towards these, shitty columns. So she just left a note at work and then just never came back. And the note, all it said was, "I'm off to New York. Look out for me. Bly."
Cool.
That was it.
I like her.
She's
cool.
She's awesome.
She pretty much decided that the Pittsburgh Dispatch sounded too much like a sitcom on ABC from like 1994.
She's way single white female working at a newspaper.
Yeah.
She wanted to break the mold a little.
Yeah.
The Mary Tyler Moore Show.
She could,
or
she move to the city and have it all.
Yeah.
Just shoot me.
Yeah, there you go.
We're like that show. And Chris is like, "Oh no, I'm not talking about a show."
Yeah.
Like what show?
Yeah. Now she went there by herself, and she went there with not a lot of money. And after 4 months of being rejected over and over and over again, she was completely broke. And on a last sort of Hail Mary pass, she talked her way in to the offices of like the editors, like the managing editors of The World, which was owned by Joseph Pulitzer. And she talked her way in, and like before they could be like, this girl says she wants to write for us. Do you want us to throw her out? And like Pulitzer was like, wait a minute, let's talk. Now, there's shit going on down in a little place called Blackwell's Island. And they won't like we can't figure out what we've tried to figure out what's going on in there. Now, and like they talked, and she was like, I'll definitely go in there as an undercover agent, and I will expose, like I'll blow the lid off this thing, And they're like, okay, yeah, we will get you out of there, after a certain amount of time, And they were like, I think they first agreed on 7 days. But like it was 10 days. She was in there 10 days.
Right.
And so like they sent her in, and then for all of that stuff, go back to our Blackwell's Island episode, and I'll tell you the whole story about that. I'm not going to rehash it here.
Was she like way old timey about it? Like, can a girl get a break? I thought I was going to get assignment to Kokomo. And they're like, nope, nobody actually talks like that in real life, Nellie. She's like, oh, geez, I guess I'll go.
Honestly,
she probably did.
Reading some of her books, it is kind of that way. It's reminiscent of that.
Okay.
I don't know. I get that impression as I sort of read it.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah, the voice I hear in my head.
It's like a screwball comedy from the 1930s,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only she'd be the side character, and like Gregory Peck would be like the main guy or something. And you just gotta have somebody to bounce it off of, and not just the editor.
Pulitzer.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there you go.
He'd be Pulitzer, and then he would have a couple goons who do the goon speak. Hey, you want I to get rid of this woman for your boss?
Yeah. He's the managing editor of The World.
They got blackjacks.
But he has goons.
But it's goons.
The goons are the managing editors.
With black and or slapjacks.
Everyone had slapjacks back in the day. Blackjacks. I think they were also called slapjacks. I don't remember.
We went over this. We went over it.
That's what I meant. I don't remember what episode
I may or may
that was.
not own one.
Yeah. I also may or may not own one. I don't.
So she blew the lid off of the abuses at Blackwell's Island, and it kind of rocketed her to fame. They gave her a steady column in The World. It was one of the most read newspapers in the United States at that point, wherever it was syndicated. She was doing really well. She was kind of a celebrity journalist at that point. The New York Sun, of course, hated her. They called her a liar. They accused her of lying for the Blackwell's thing. They called her a stunt girl, and that's kind of how they, condescended to her. They were like, you're the world's stunt girl reporting over there. Yeah. That kind of thing.
Yeah, just trying to.
Trying to poke holes in.
Yeah,
take her down a peg because their newspaper sucks.
Exactly.
Exactly. But by calling her a stunt girl, I'd think of Evel Knievel. Like, that's fucking badass.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, she would do like diving and stuff and like those suits, like those metal suits,
Oh, yeah.
She would go and like be an elephant trainer for like a day, like do all these crazy things,
Just need 3 stout men to work the bellows.
Yeah.
Yeah. She went undercover as an Irish maid to expose what those working conditions are like.
God.
Yeah,
I don't even want to imagine how poor her Irish accent was.
Probably didn't. Even back in the day.
Yeah, it didn't really matter. Like,
what part of Ireland are you from? Dublin, you big lug. Now, do I have the job or not? And they're like, I guess. I mean, you're sure you're from Ireland? It's just like, she's not even trying to hide it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm used to cleaning up after you boys.
She went undercover in a box making factory as a factory girl. Like
Hold on.
When women.
No, that's great. I just thought you were gonna say she went undercover in a box.
Oh,
solid
factory.
snake.
She like burst out of the box like in Found with a Paradise.
Yeah.
At least one guy's like, "Is it my birthday?" Oh. That's when you find out that guy always got boxes instead of cakes for his birthday, so it made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
He grew up poor.
Yeah.
It's hypothetical guy I made up.
But yeah, she exposed the horrific working conditions there, the fact they couldn't take breaks, things like that. That they would get maimed by these, machines and weren't paid, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
She also bought a baby one time to prove that was something you could do. Yeah. Like the guy even said like, yeah, too bad it's not a boy because the boys go for more.
That's great.
Yeah. That's the thing.
I mean, not great that you can buy babies.
No.
I'm sure you still can. I don't think she solved any problems with that one.
Well, she just exposed it, like this is something that's happening in this city, guys.
I think mine just came out like that. We paid good money for that kid.
This one's pretty crazy. She allowed herself to be captured by a presumed serial rapist and probably serial killer.
Oh my God.
There was this dude hanging out in Central Park late at night that had a carriage, and he would like pull up to women and like insist on giving them a ride, and then take them in like odd places, like odd directions, and then like once they would get somewhere, he would like try to ply them with alcohol, and then like these women would go missing or things like this, and so she had like a sting operation set up and like allowed herself to be captured by this man. And like just as he was like about to like force her to drink alcohol, like all these dudes came out and like arrested him and shit.
Oh God!
So she did get some goons for her.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Goons. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So she's like crazy. I think the Lois Lane analog makes a lot of sense, but also in some ways a bit of a Superman style situation. She's solving crimes and reporting on them.
Well, there's no Superman saving her.
Yeah, no, she doesn't need it.
That's why
she's a real woman.
That's why they had to add Superman to the those comics, is people wouldn't have believed that a woman would be able to do that. So to be more believable, they made a man who could bend steel and fly and eat bullets or whatever.
They also made the guy who drove the carriage and was like, assaulting all the women a minority. to make it more believable.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's the way they thought.
Nobody would have believed it was a white guy. So,
She also got herself arrested or at least once, to go to like women's jail and like see the conditions there as well and report on that. Yeah, like crazy shit like that. Like, you're gonna get me out, right? You know, you're gonna get me out of this, right? You know, that was always a thing.
They're like, yeah, we didn't agree on that.
What are you doing, you idiot?
Yeah.
I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. Shivity shiv shiv shiv. She's like really good with that too.
Yeah.
Just slicing and dicing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she exposed corrupt politics, bribing rings, and systematic failures and dereliction of duties wherever they could be found. That was her specialty. That's what she did. Now, she had this idea because what she would do is she would think on Sundays about what she was going to do and then take it to the editor on Monday.
Like
and
the
it's like, here's my story idea. You know, she was like, here's my story. Send me around the world by myself. And
in a hot air balloon.
Well, she goes, I will beat Phileas Fogg's record from around the world in 80 days. I'll do it faster than that.
But that's fiction.
Yeah, totally.
Am I wrong that
no, it is absolutely fiction. But
you're like, no, Chris, that actually happened. I'd be like, what?
But that book had just come out. You know, it was
you're gonna say Amelia Earhart was real.
Oh God,
Chris, you crack us up.
Thanks, man.
She's not real.
Her original idea was actually to cross the Atlantic in steerage, and they were like, "No, you're gonna die that way." They sent her into Blackwell's and refused to do that. You refused to send her across the Atlantic in steerage. That shows you how bad that is. They're like, no, you're not doing that. She was like, okay, around the world by myself. How about that? And they're like, for a whole year, they were like, no, because
these are the days before liability insurance.
Yeah. Oh, totally. But they were like, look, first of all, you're a woman, so it's impossible.
Second of all, end of list. Because
you're a woman, you're going to take way too much baggage in order to beat that record. That's seriously the first thing they brought up. That's literally the first thing. It's well, now listen, we're going to talk about this. So they're like, you're going to take way too many trunks, way too much shit. And
you know how much
there's
we're
no
going
way
to be paying for the baggage fees and everything?
Well, and don't forget, she's also going to be carrying the baggage of every argument that she ever had with the editor-in-chief.
Right.
And she's just going to be carrying that and waiting for an opportunity to unload that on him, you know, because he's a really nice guy. He's just trying his best, you know?
Yeah.
Women, right?
Well,
God.
It's a joke.
I know.
It's a comedy podcast.
They totally refused the first time, but a year later, Joseph Pulitzer sort of saw the logic in this. He goes, now, if we sent her around the world during that time, we could sell all these newspapers because we'd constantly be reporting on it. You know what I mean? And we get people really excited about this, you know, and we could really stir people up. So he was like, okay, you like with only just a couple of days notice, the day was November 14th, 1889, just a couple of days notice. He was like, you know, pack light. We're sending you around the world. And like, this is like before, you know, Expedia, you know, so you straight up had to have like spread out all of these like train and steamer schedules and figure out how to actually beat that record around the world, you know? So they had to figure all that out. If she missed one thing, she was fucked. You know, she couldn't do it, you know? So she packed one bag, with one dress. She had some, you know, toiletries, you know, a couple of like veils, a light jacket, you know, a couple of other odds and ends. And she said, she goes, the one thing I was on the fence about was this jar of cold cream. It's because I knew that around the Suez Canal, it got really fucking hot. She's like, I need something, right? And she goes, let me tell you, the jar of cold cream was the fucking worst thing I packed.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, it was a menace. It was always in the wrong position. I couldn't fit, because she had to stuff that bag, that one bag,
It was talking shit.
Yeah. But yeah.
Just the bottle of cold cream is like, fuck you.
Yeah. Fucking wanted to be at home. I'm going to be watching TV.
Yeah.
So didn't like to travel.
She wasn't like going with like an official escort. There would be people to like help her along the way, but she was going totally by herself in a time where women just didn't do that, and she was off, across the really choppy ass Atlantic. And like she was going at kind of a shitty time of year too. They were going to run into like storms in the South China Sea. Like a bunch of people were like, I don't think she's going to make it, at least in that time. So while she's on this boat, like across the choppy Atlantic, she gets seasick, of course, and like she looks up at like the rest of the people after she's done puking, and they're all like laughing at her. And like one guy's like, and she wants to go around the world, and they all laughed.
Laughed and laughed, and history remembers all those guys.
I know, right?
Yeah. I'm sure right after she puked and he made his comment, he was like, "Hey, can I buy some of that puke off you? I have a very specific kink. I won't tell anyone. I really need this." Guys are fucking gross, bro.
Yeah. Big time.
Not me, but like you guys, I don't know, jury's out, but there's other guys. They're pretty disgusting. They'd buy seasick fucking journalist lady puke. Like
yeah.
I mean, the fact that people are buying gamer girl bathwater.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah.
There's a subreddit for lady journalists fucking seasick vomit. Fucking mark my words. That's all I'm saying.
Well, now there is.
Yeah.
I just created it.
You're like,
dude, Rule 34, if you can imagine it, there's porn of it out there.
Yeah. Now, when she got to England, passports worked a lot differently back in the day. When she got to England, she got a passport, which is super weird. But, the guy was like trying to be like tactful, and it came off more as insulting to Nellie. Like he was like, "No, I know women don't like to divulge their age, so if you just want to like, write it down, or you can whisper it in my ear or something." And she was like, "I'm 25." He was like, okay.
He's like,
and he's like,
broads,
where's your luggage? And she's like, I got this.
Is it?
And like she pretty much got that at every like stop too.
Yeah.
Every time she switched,
they
like,
asked
"Where's
that
your
guy,
luggage?"
they were like, who is that? You're like, I don't know, some guy dressed like a woman.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been a woman.
Yeah.
Told me his age and everything.
And she actually got a wire ahead of time that Jules Verne, the man who wrote Around the World in 80 Days, wanted to meet her if she had time in France. And so she did. She stopped there briefly to meet Jules Verne and his wife. They talked for a little bit with a interpreter because like I guess like his wife's extent of English was no, and her extent of French was oui. So there's like not much they could actually talk about.
Sounds like every time I'm in France.
But they
what did he just say? He just said, "Do you think you're better than me? Do you think you're better than my characters? I swear to God, if you do it in 79, I'll slit your throat."
Yeah.
Like, all right.
As she walked in, he was sharpening knives.
Yeah.
He said some vaguely sexist stuff that Nellie like brushed off, like, "Oh, maybe you'll find a husband on the trip," things like that. Yeah, but like she planned on doing it in 75. And I think he was like, "If you do it in 79, I will applaud you with both hands," is what he said. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I guess it was a nice little meeting that they had. I guess he said, "I will applaud you with both hands." I don't know. I don't know how else.
What's the sound of one hand clapping?
Yeah.
From The Simpsons. Is that reading?
Oh my God.
Is that reading?
Maybe.
A little bit.
But yeah, then she got on what she said was a really dirty mail train. It was just for mail and a few select passengers, And, there was it was really foggy and it was really dirty in Italy. You know, she talks about this, and she goes, you know, we have everything in America. Like, honestly, the way she writes about this is like, everything's dirty everywhere else. We have all the best things in America. Although she did notice nice shit in other places, like I wish were in America.
Mm-hmm. Like the bidets.
Yeah.
Like the healthcare.
Zach?
Oh, I realized because I just got done watching porn before logging in. Mail train, MAIL, not MAL.
Oh yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
If you put Nellie Bly mail train, you're not gonna get anything. I mean, you're gonna get stuff that Zach wants. You're not gonna get stuff that is useful for the. But it is weird that there is very specific videos that are, you know, pretty historically accurate, great production values, full penetration, kind of everything that you want.
Oh my god.
So you know, but you know, if that's what you're looking for, by the way, thanks, Zach. I really appreciate you reaching out. Me know.
Yeah, reaching out and the reach around. I mean, it was great. We do our research, dear listeners.
Yeah, ours isn't quite the same as Jerry's, but it happens.
Yeah.
Her writing is very, you know, American exceptionalist, but you know, that's of the time. It's, you know, a lot of her writing is definitely of the time. When you do read, you know, her books about this kind of stuff. You know, when she deals with people in other countries and stuff, you know, she's like filthy people, you know, but it's a poor country, you know, so like it's, you know, there's a lot of that in there. But basically, she went, you know, down through the Mediterranean to the Suez Canal that was, you know, opened fairly recently.
Moments ago.
Went through there, and I guess it was really slow because they couldn't go over a certain speed because otherwise the water like laps up against like the canal and it erodes.
They're going like 5 knots.
I think go like 3.
3 knots.
So it's like painfully slow, and like the sun is just bearing down on you. Yeah, and
I don't like it.
Yeah, they're like, it took so long to get through that.
You go inside the boat. You go to the buffet. You're on a cruise ship, right?
These are kind of, you know, the accommodations for some of these. Like, she talks about like how on like some of these accommodations, how like they're rude, how like they don't want to like, you know, help you at all, you know, or anything. Like sometimes she writes about that. She also writes about how like, oh wow, the English have really taken every port of value along the way.
Yeah, you don't say.
And it's kind of the beginning. Like this trip is like the beginning of like her hatred of like the English people. Like it's a true thing, and it would really like come to the surface later.
Monty Python's like a ways out, so I don't know. I mean, what else? What did they have before? I mean, colonialism. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as funny.
Pretty funny.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny. Different senses of humor.
There were rumors circulating about her on board. You know, like what is this woman doing here? They were like, oh, it's a rich American heiress that only traveled with like a hairbrush and her checkbook, and that's it. You know, she's this eccentric heiress. So like all these guys then were like proposing marriage to her. Like she got like several. Like you know, one guy straight up did like an incel-y, like, if only I could show you, you could step off the boat with me here. I could be your loving husband forever. And she was like, she straight up like was like, make that guy stay away from me. And there was this other like fancy guy that like, she's like, I watched this guy. He dressed really nice. He like changed his clothes several times in the course of one day, and like came over and was like,
because he kept shit in his pants.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry.
He was like
a regular dandy.
Yeah, he was. And he's like, he was an Englishman, of course. And he was like, yeah, I've never married because, you know, I just can't find a woman that, you know, can travel like this without packing so many bags. And she was like, motherfucker, you're changing your clothes like 3 times a day. She goes, how many trunks did you bring with you? And he goes, 19.
Just a
It's like,
paltry 19.
wow. How many were you expecting, dude? Like, that's
It's like only
insane.
18 have clothes. The 19th one is for the woman I find on my voyage and I chop open a piece to take home. She's like, okay, cool. We're good. We're good. We're good. He's like, I'm a nice guy. She's like, I'm sure you are.
I'm sure you are. Yeah. Yeah. There was another Englishman that was like, oh, you know, in America, and like was telling her about like American culture. It was like, in America, when you like rise to prominence, like your kids take your full name and your full name becomes like just your name. And she's like, no, it's not.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, so like the way he was talking about, I think he was talking about Jim Fisk, and he's like, it's just Jim Fisk, and now his son is like John Jim Fisk. And she's like, no, that's not what it's like.
Yeah.
She's like, what makes you he's like, I'm an expert on American culture. This guy, not her.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm an expert on American culture. And she goes, how did you become an expert on American culture? Like, have you ever been to America? And he's like, yeah, once. I stayed a day in New York City. And then from there, we traveled to the border of Canada. And it's like, so you were in America for like 2.5 days. It's like, yeah. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, that sells it. He knows what he's talking about. I doubted him, but now.
Yeah.
Sounds like he knows about Canada, too.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But she was like, motherfucking Englishman. You know, it really like pissed her off.
They did it to themselves by the sound of things.
Man,
Yeah.
if you ever been to the Heathrow Airport, you'd understand.
Yeah.
I got horror stories regarding Heathrow.
They stopped off in Colombo, which is a port city in Sri Lanka.
He only had one eye.
Yeah.
Peter Falk.
Yeah. There you go.
Tyler and I are on the same page.
Yeah.
Remember when he was in Wings of Desire?
It's a great movie.
I've never seen
It's a
that.
great movie.
I've heard it's
very
great.
good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
It's got Nick Cave in it.
Yeah. Peter Falk plays himself.
You got it mixed up with City of Angels, Chris.
No, I don't.
And wait. Oh wait, no, wait. Nick Cage. Nick Cage is in City of Angels.
Nick Cave is in
Wings of Desire by the Vendors.
Yes.
I don't talk
Okay.
about. I don't talk
That's
about
crazy.
Nicolas Cage.
I'm just saying. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. You're right. You're not wrong.
I mean, it's technically the same movie, only one's shit and the other one's like nearly.
The American remake is terrible. Yeah.
It's real bad.
Yeah. After Colombo, they went to Singapore where she bought a monkey.
Cool.
And kept it. You know, she bought
It's
this
like-
monkey and kept this monkey.
I hope she taught that monkey to smoke palmos.
Like Krusty the Clown.
What's the point of getting a monkey if you can't vicariously live out your dreams through it?
Yeah.
You could eat it.
So yeah, you could, but that's what you do at the end. You teach it to smoke. You teach it to gamble. It racks up some debt. You take out some credit cards in the monkey's name. You run them way up.
Back then, you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't know the difference.
My
Yeah.
monkey has a maxed out Amex card.
It's like ever since I'm a widow ever since my ex-husband, fell off Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
His name was Chim Chim.
Chim Chim. When she got to Hong Kong, which she doesn't have a lot of nice things to say about the Chinese. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's honestly hard to listen to at times.
Yeah.
But when she got to Hong Kong, like the British officials there that she was going to go meet with, because they were expecting her, they were like, "Oh shit, oh dude, you got to come into my office." She's like, "What? What's going on?" And she was like, the guy was like, "You're not going to make it." She's like, "What do you mean I'm not going to make it? Like I made up 5 days on the on the Indian Ocean. We're good." It's like,
I'm
no.
hauling ass.
The race, you're not going to win the race. She's like, "I'm racing against time." And he's like, "You're not getting me. There's someone else racing you around the world." And she's like, "Someone else is racing me around the world?" Well, it turns out.
Jackie Chan.
Yeah, I knew it.
It turns out another publication by the name of Cosmopolitan
Oh.
sent their own female reporter, Elizabeth Bisland, who is honestly pretty cool in her own right, kind of for different reasons than Nellie. They sent her around the world going in the opposite direction because they thought that would be faster, because those headwinds of the South China Sea, they were like, she's going to get stuck there, and you know, she's going to get through that before, you know, she's going to miss all that, you know. So we think that our reporter can beat her, you know.
But while she's doing her trip, doesn't she have to like also like write about 100 ways to drive your man insane? Because she's writing for Cosmo.
She was actually, she was a literary critic. Like, she was extremely respected, like one of the few extremely respected female journalists. And like, they were even like, you're going around the world to beat Nellie Bly. And she was like, no, I'm not. She's like, I have plans, dude. I'm not doing that. And they're like, yeah, you are. You know, and they're like, we will spare no expense to like charter trains and shit to get you there, you know.
I got season tickets with the Mets. The Knicks were too expensive. So.
Yeah. Elizabeth Bisland is kind of a story for a different day. She is pretty amazing. But now Nellie is like, fuck. Like, she tells these guys, she goes, listen, my editors hired me to beat 80 days, to go around the world in less than 80 days. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm not racing anybody, you know. That's stupid, you know. And they're like, okay, you know, but you're going to lose. And she was like, I don't give a shit.
She gave a shit.
So like, you know, she pressed on, right? Really having no idea that Elizabeth Bisland was where she was, you know, at all.
She could be anywhere.
Yeah. When she went to Japan, she loved Japan.
Yeah.
She's like, the Chinese are filthy people, but the Japanese are very clean and polite.
I told
She's
you
like,
days.
I hate the Chinese, but I love the Japanese. Like, she basically says that. It's like,
That's
okay,
I'm not saying anything against the Chinese, but I will say that I have a bidet at home, and it's the only thing I know about Japanese culture. That and Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
And
so
you're like,
you're like, they're 2 for 2 in my book.
And then from Japan, of course, she went across the Pacific to San Francisco. And like, she had a couple of scares on the Pacific. They were like, I can't find the papers. If we don't have the papers when we pull in, then they'll, you know, we're going to be out there for several days and you're going to miss it. And,
goodness gracious, the papers.
But like, the guy went down there and found the papers, you know, like, it was one of those situations. So when she gets back to San Francisco, you know, people are whipped up into a frenzy. They've been reading all about
they're
her
losing their
adventures. There's people betting on to the minute when she's going to get back.
It's CNN before CNN, or like, you know, any 24-hour news network where they're like, how do we make it so people give a shit about the news every minute of every day?
Yeah.
And and they found a way of doing it without cable TV. So it's pretty exciting.
Impressive.
Yeah. They called it the Nellie Bly Express, because they're like, when do you want to get there? And she threw out an impossible time, and they go, okay. And she was like, all right, you know. And at every place, you know, they went to, you know, people like from all over gathered around to see Nellie Bly go through, you know, like brass bands and all sorts of stuff, you know.
And if anyone got in her way, she'd give them the Nellie Bly Express, which is a right hook to the face. And surprisingly strong. She wore a lot of rings.
Yeah.
Dude, those weren't rings. That was her brass knuckles.
She called them rings.
By the way, incidentally, she does talk about how they sold particular styles of rings in Colombo, to where, like, if you saw somebody with one of these rings, it was almost like, oh, you've been to Colombo. You know, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. You know, they went directly through. Keep in mind, this is the year right after the Great Blizzard of 1888. That blizzard. Right. You know what I mean? She got stuck in that blizzard for a second, had to have somebody pull her out of a snowdrift too. You know, that blizzard.
She turned around to thank them, and they were just a fucking ice cube.
Yeah.
It was
so she's
Bigfoot.
like dodging like these types of weather. You know, this weather pattern didn't like go away. You know what I mean? Just 88 was the worst. Now, when she finally pulled into the station, you know, there were all these timekeepers there. When she stepped off the train, boom, boom, both feet, they clicked the watches. And she did the trip in 72 days, 6 hours, 11 minutes, and 14 seconds.
Holy shit.
Shattering the record. And
Jules Verne can suck my dick.
yeah. Elizabeth Bisland made it in 76. And some people say that maybe Joseph Pulitzer sent a guy ahead of her to England to fuck up her plans across the Atlantic, because for a little bit it was looking pretty tight. But people maintain, you know, historians maintain that if she woulda, coulda done certain things at a certain time, she still wouldn't have beat her. So, because going that way on the Atlantic at that time of year, it was incredibly choppy and like really hard to go that way, you know, from east to west on the Atlantic that time of year.
Did they account for the, you know, the extra day or whatever it would be, or?
Yeah,
if you pass all the way around there, you know.
Yeah, because that's in Around the World in 80 Days. At the very end, they didn't make it, and then they realized, oh shit, there's actually another day in there, and that's how he walks in triumphantly. Anyway,
is that in the Jackie Chan movie?
Yes. Yeah. I think it
was Jackie Chan and Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie, or did I just
Steve Coogan and Jackie Chan?
Was it Steve
Is that
Coogan?
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But Arnold's in the movie.
I think
he might be.
Dude. I've not seen it. I just want to say
I've seen parts of it. It's not great.
Because I remember always talking about how my favorite idea for a movie is a movie where Jackie Chan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Christopher Walken abscond with orphans in a hot air balloon, and they have to convince them to get in. And then that movie came out, and it was like 2 out of 3, and I was like, sure. Never watched it, but I was pretty excited that it existed.
Yeah. As you know, Nellie Bly's waving to all these fans, you know, there was like a guy that like ran up and he goes, "Hey, Nellie Bly." And she's like, "What?" And he goes,
"Fuck you."
No, he goes, did you ride any elephants on your trip around the world? And she goes, "No." And he just like, you know, turned his head down dejected and walked away.
It's like Charlie Brown.
Like, that's what he's like, "Man, I hope that Nellie Bly rode an elephant."
Yeah. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be something.
Well, she just lied.
He was so disappointed when he found out that she didn't ride an elephant.
Yeah. He reacted as if an old friend had died.
Yeah, exactly.
He had to take his hat off. He's like, put it to his chest.
He's like, when Nellie Bly gets into, you know, back into New York, I have a question. I have to run to the front of the crowd to ask her. I have to know this.
Yeah. And everyone's like, "What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be, Jack?" And he's like, "That's between me and Nellie." Just like wholesome Jack from like the fruit stand downtown.
He has his like apron on still, and like his like tweed like paperboy hat.
Yeah.
There's a hole in it.
He grew up to be the Zodiac killer. I mean, he would have to live to be like 100 years old, but like, you know, or more. Like, I mean,
I don't know.
It's 1889 at this point, and the Zodiac was the 1970s, so you know.
Anyway,
could have been a very old man.
Yeah,
he was the Zodiac killer's grandpa. I don't know.
But he did train him to Zodiac kill, so
yeah. There you go.
All because she didn't ride an elephant.
It's like, only kill women who didn't ride elephants. And he's like, so all of them, right? Most of them.
Odds.
That's most.
He can risk it.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe he was just concerned for her safety, you know, with all the tigers.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I know, I thought of that too, but I couldn't remember the exact joke.
Yeah. So that's 2 elephants high.
Yeah, that's
2
right.
elephants high, you're safe from tigers.
Yeah.
We're bringing them all back this episode.
It's a HistoryBoiz classic.
Yeah. Not quite a clip show. Now, when she actually had she had the monkey at her house along with a parrot
Still.
and a terrier dog, but the monkey was kind of a menace.
Yeah, it's like Ross from Friends. Remember when he
He
got a
only
monkey?
smokes Chinese cigarettes. Can't get
Well, the
cigarettes
monkey-
into the U.S.
The monkey straight up would like open the cupboards, take her like fine china, and just smash it on the floor.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, that's pretty fun.
She's like, "Oh my god,
Monkey's cool.
No,
It's like, I don't know where he kept getting that snub-nosed revolver from. But I kept taking it away.
No, I had an anthropology
producing it.
teacher who said that she was living in India at one point in time, and there was like it was like essentially like urbanized monkeys that
Mhm.
Yeah.
knew that they could steal from people and shit.
Yeah.
And she had her groceries stolen by them. They're
Yeah.
just too fast, and there's too
Mhm.
many of them. And
those
they
like
straight-
baboons, right?"
No, they're
Yeah.
they're like straight up like howler monkeys or some shit,
Mhm.
like just
Yeah.
swinging around, fucking like pretty much getting attacked by like a bunch of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Tiny Spider-Man. I mean,
and
that's
they're
tiny.
super
Yeah.
strong, like
Yeah.
way stronger than you think.
Yeah.
They are.
Wait,
Like
wait for
Spider-Man.
their size. They have relative
Yeah.
spider strength. I mean, come on.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
Totally.
spider monkeys.
No, I remember watching an episode of An Idiot Abroad with Carl Pilkington.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I
That was a good
believe
show.
he gets his shit stolen by those monkeys in
Yeah.
India.
Yeah.
Is that right? I haven't seen
Yeah.
all of that, but that was a good show.
God, I love that show.
It's so good.
Pretty good.
I would watch that guy travel anywhere. It's
It's
so
same.
funny.
Or
It's a great
do yourself a
premise.
favor and watch Travel Man with Richard Ayoade. Now,
Oh,
that's
really?
also fucking
All right,
I
hilarious.
haven't
love
seen
him.
that one. But
I'll
I
check
watch it.
that out. I'll check that out. So right after this trip, though, she was even more famous. She
Mhm.
was really famous. It was around this time that like companies were figuring out that like with celebrity endorsements, you could sell a whole lot of shit easier.
Oh yeah.
And so
Get some
like
Nikes.
yes, well, so there were like Nellie Bly board games where you went around the world, and it's a lot like Game of Life or Shoots and
Mhm.
Ladders, whatever.
Yeah.
There were Nellie Bly, I think lunch boxes, Nellie
Mhm.
Bly, all sorts of things,
Breakfast cereals.
Yeah. If this was the 80s, 100%.
Yeah, back then, breakfast cereal was just your father's belt, if you were lucky, and some Postum.
Oh god. Now, what the thing to do back in the day when you did something amazing was you would go on a lecture tour, right? Shackleton did this after his trip. You went on a lecture tour when you talked about your trip.
Mhm.
That's what you did. So she did that, and the thing is at first people were really excited,
Mhm.
and then like rival newspapers and stuff started like basically
like-
chastising her for it, like trying
Yeah,
to like
she didn't even
capitalize.
ride an elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they were
She
like,
made that fruit stand guy hella sad.
well,
Killed
they were like, she's capitalizing on something she did. That's like not good. She doesn't have the good sense to not do that. And it's
They're
like,
a fucking newspaper.
well, yeah, and it's like, dude, that's what you do,
We're
Like,
in
it was
America
honestly-
too.
Yeah,
Like-
right. I think the thing was it was the fact that she was a woman and she was capitalizing
Mhm.
on these things. Honestly.
Capitalism is
Ah.
for men.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Men in suits hanging from helicopters, smoking cigars.
That's right.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So
And they could be any body type, and I'll accept that.
so she her crowds kind of dwindled. She had a manager, and I don't know, her manager, they kind of had a falling out. She kind of had a falling out with the world, the paper, the world,
Mhm. The whole
over
world.
money. And for a while, from 1887 to 1896, she had a storied career with the world. But yeah, they parted ways. The public was sort of soured on her. I think they got overexposed to her for a second, and then they wanted nothing to do with her. They wanted almost that meteoric fall that comes from fame.
It's
what
like
I mean?
superhero movies.
Yep.
Yeah,
And Star Wars.
yeah,
Mhm.
or
They're not making any money anymore.
Zach Galifianakis.
Britney Spears, Kanye,
Will Ferrell?
Well, no, I just a meteoric rise. They want an equal meteoric fall.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
they shoot up and then they kind of disappear because they're overexposed.
Well, and they want to like see you fall too. You know what I mean? Like they want to see Britney like shave her head and like smash like windows, and they want to see Lindsay Lohan fail, and that's
They
just kind of what that's
the
how
girl
fame sort of
Eminem
works.
get less hot for some reason.
Yeah. So she tried her luck at a novel career. She got they were going to do a series, and she was sort of using like her experiences. It was called like Mystery in the Park or something like that. I actually forget the title, because her novel, I think there might be several, were lost to time until 2021 actually.
Oh wow.
Dug
shit.
up, yeah. And found, but they were critically panned at the time, and honestly people to this day are like, yeah, they're not very good. She's not a novelist, she is a journalist. She's just not good at it. So that failed. So she moved in with her mother in White Plains, New York, with her monkey and her parrot and her terrier. Yeah, they were sort of getting by on like the small stipend like her mom had, you know what I mean? But it wasn't really going well. She kind of retreated from public life.
So she didn't have like any of that adventure money?
Well, she sort of did, but like, I mean, the thing is the paper made all the money. They paid her to do that. Like they paid her wage and paid her way, but like she didn't see residuals from it. You know what I mean? She went on a lecture tour. She got some money from that, but it wasn't a lot.
Yeah, and also you said the lecture tour failed. Well, not failed, but like
it petered out fairly quickly. And like, the world didn't really want her back, so, there was also like a libel lawsuit and stuff that she was involved with, because basically she exposed corruption, and they were like, hey, now wait a minute, you said I was corrupt and I'm not corrupt. Anyway, it was all she was like, I want no part of it. It's your newspaper. It's your responsibility, right? So that's kind of how they left. But at this point, I mean, she was very depressed. She was bedridden with depression. And, the world would hire other stunt girls, like a bunch of them, to write under the same pseudonym. Because not one person could write under, and live up to the name Nellie Bly,
Right.
They'd have to replace her with multiple ones.
Some bullshit.
Yeah. Now, the world eventually did offer her job back. There was some shuffle in management. She had to take it, And when she took it, she started interviewing people again, started sort of getting back to it. She actually interviewed the anarchist Emma Goldman, which, if you'll remember, Oki Hall, after he was mayor, defended Emma Goldman in court. She interviewed John Jacob Astor, Eugene Debs, the socialist leader, in a jailhouse interview, by the way. I do want to do an episode on Eugene Debs one of these days as well. Of course, she interviewed Tammany Hall officials during this time. She straight up spent the night in a haunted house.
Cool.
Sweet.
Did she get the money?
Ghosts.
Yeah, I was going to say. Like...
Yeah. No ghosts. She marched with railroad strikers in Chicago. She went to Bloomingdale's, the insane asylum, for rich people, right? But all of it was seeming like a rehash, and it was seeming like a rehash to her too. She was like, I gotta do something else.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, after she was marching with those railroad strikers, on her way back on the train, she actually met a guy named Robert Livingston Seaman on that train.
What?
Seaman? Robert
I don't
Livingston
know.
Seaman?
Yeah,
Okay.
Seaman. He was a man of the sea. I get it. What's the joke?
Chock full of cum. That was the joke.
It wasn't called cum, man.
I didn't say his name was Cummin. I
That
just
would
said
be
that
funny.
He was chock full of it.
Jizzy J. Livingston the Third. He'd write his name like Zorro and jizz on every wall you ever saw. It's disgusting unless you're into that kind of thing.
Jesus Christ. Well, he was a millionaire, And
DJ. Sorry. I'm done.
He owned the Ironclad Manufacturing Company, and I think he was worth like $5 million, which was a lot of money back in the day.
Yeah.
And after a week of sort of being together, they eloped and got married. And so she kind of fulfilled another one of her like childhood dreams of like marrying a millionaire.
Yeah.
You know,
because nobody wants that.
Yeah. The thing about it too is he was 73 years old.
Oh man.
And
Good
she
kid.
was 30. She was 31.
Mhm.
And, so people were like,
Yeah.
you know, they called her
I know
a
what
gold
they were
digger.
thinking.
Yeah, they called her a gold digger for sure.
She ain't messing with no broke what's.
Right.
You know the radio. The radio.
Yeah,
edit
the radio
The
edit.
radio
Yeah.
version. Second time Kanye has been mentioned this episode.
Yeah,
That
right.
is true.
Kanye reference.
We're gonna one more time. We're gonna end up summoning him.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hate that shit.
Yeah, he's like, I was driving
Now-
down the highway.
Yeah.
He's like, my family was in the car. Where am I? How did I
I
get
was
here?
too busy stalking Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Well, he was on the freeway stalking
Yeah.
Kim Kardashian.
Now he was kind of a jealous husband. He had like private detectives follow her sometimes.
Mhm.
You know,
It's a completely reasonable thing to do.
yeah.
Mhm.
He was totally jealous. His health though was failing, and Nellie became more and more involved in the management of the Ironclad Manufacturing Company.
Mhm.
So when he died at the age of 80, that's March 11th, 1904, she basically took the helm
Mhm.
and ran this manufacturing company. And she was like the only woman maybe in the world that was running a company of that magnitude.
Yeah, that's
at
kind
that
of
time.
nuts.
Yeah. And like she even has her name to multiple patents. Like I guess there's an oil barrel that she has a patent to, but that one's kind of sketchy. The sources I found for that were kind of sketchy. But
Does
she
it have
did.
a bladder inside the barrel? So if it gets into an accident, the oil is
Right.
still in the bladder inside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
They
don't
call
think
it the
they were thinking
Vandalay.
about- Yeah, exactly. She also has a patent for stackable garbage cans.
Oh.
You know, she has a
mean-
few of them actually. She's pretty like not bad industrial designer. You know,
That's great.
yeah.
This is like if Lois Lane married a very old Lex Luthor right before he died.
Yeah, right. Yeah, took over the company.
Yeah. She's running things. Superman go fuck
Yeah.
himself.
And then the writers of the comic were like, it'd be interesting stories as if she had several patents under her name in industrial design.
Mhm.
People just showed up to read that every month.
Can't you can't you just make it about a flying strongman? For God's sakes.
Like, you say flying strongman, I hear stacking trash cans.
Jesus. But the thing is that she kept on a lot of her husband's like accountants, and she didn't really have a mind for like business and whatnot. That's not really, that wasn't her. That's not how her brain worked. So they took advantage of her and they embezzled millions of dollars out of the company. So much so that the company eventually went bankrupt. Like completely ran into the ground by mismanagement.
As was the style at the time.
Yeah. They basically just robbed it blind and then
just
left it with nothing.
Yeah, it sounds so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, now she had all of these debts and creditors were after her. She had a lot of the company's stock in her mom's name and transferred it to one of her friends in Austria to basically keep it away from the creditors. And when the hammer was basically coming down, she fled the country.
Solid move.
Yeah, to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And she fled there in 1914.
God
Whoops.
damn it. Yeah, I was about to be like, wait a minute, what year is this?
And
She was just going to entrust all the stock to her good friend, Gavrillo.
Yeah. He had some wild ideas about serving in nationalism.
Yeah. 3 days. 3 days after she fled the country, war was declared.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So she did the craziest investigative reporting of her life. And that was on the Eastern Front.
Ooh.
During World War I.
That's the scary front. They're both scary.
Yeah, they're both horrific. Totally horrifying. But, so little about the Eastern Front, is written in the West, so it's crazy, like, hearing some of her stories. By the way, I'm going to post all of these articles that she sent back, all the ones I could find from this time as well.
Oh, that is
if you get the chance, read them. They are holy shit. Holy shit. She does not hold back. King. She does not. She gives you all the details.
I know, I'm kidding.
There's fucking blood everywhere, man.
It's yeah.
Just written for a page.
Yeah. She sent them back actually for the Hearst papers, is who she was sending these back to.
She thought she was sending them back to the Hearst papers.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's spooky.
Well, she talks about, like, being on this train. Again, she's by herself with one bag again, She's 51 years old. 51. At that age, she's by herself reporting on this war. You know what I mean? And she's on this train, and, like, she's with this Austro-Hungarian prince. And, he's commanding this regiment or whatever is moving on these rails, to the front. And, like, he agreed to take her along. He'd be like, oh yeah, last night on the train, 2 of my men died. And she was like, it's weird because, like, no one gets, like, freaked out. No one gets weirded out. No one shrieks in terror. It's ordinary. It's ordinary here. Like, it's just what happens. You know what I mean? And, like, people are just like, yep, that's how ugly this all is, people just die all around you. You know what I mean? If you were on a normal train in the United States and someone died on the train, it would be a huge thing. Now, just people are just dying all the time, She went to some of the Red Cross hospitals as well to see what was going on there. And
Jesus.
Holy Lord. There's 2 stories that I'm going to relate to you here, because that's, my God. They were like, she was like, what's the craziest thing you've seen someone come back from? And, like, he described all of these things that, like, seem impossible. Like, a guy got shot, like, through the temple. Like, the bullet went out the other side. And he survived.
Oh, shit.
Was he blind?
I assume so.
Yeah.
Like, one guy...
He's like, go back to work now. Bye, Mom. And they're like, okay, he seems fine to me.
Yeah.
He was like that before.
Yeah. He talks about a couple of guys that got shot directly in the head, and it went out the other side, and they still survived. But there's this one story where this guy was stuck on, like, an end of their trench, right? And there's a middle part of the trench that was blocked by enemy fire, and they couldn't get to this guy on the other side. For 5 days, they couldn't get to him. And he had been blown up. He'd been shot he'd been blown up, basically, and his jaw was completely ripped off.
Ugh.
He was alive, and he was over there for 5 days starving in the cold with his jaw ripped off before they could drag him out of there. And when they got him back to the hospital, his tongue was hanging, like, on his chest, is what they said. They took a tube, put it down his throat, and poured soup into his stomach. And once he could feel the soup in his stomach, he, like, kept asking for more.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
And, like, I guess they made him a new jaw, attached it, and the guy lived.
Holy fuck.
Bear an underbite.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Avenger Brothers, yes.
Yeah.
King.
Yeah.
Bear an Unterbite.
But when she actually witnessed herself at a Red Cross hospital, like, the guy comes out and he goes, you said you want to see some crazy shit? And he goes, follow me.
Just started doing street magic.
Oh,
He's
Chris
fucking
Angel.
Blaine.
Yeah, David Blaine, Chris Angel, whatever that is.
Is this your card? She's like, whoa.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, it isn't, but
you
you
did a
seem
card
happy
trick.
about it.
So she goes into the this tent, and she goes like, the second I got in there, I wish I had not gone in.
Mhm.
She's like, there's blood everywhere, literally everywhere. The nurses were standing gravely over this what's left of this emaciated man. And like, she talks about like how his skull was like skeletal and like his like black eyes like rolled around because he was still alive. They're
Mhm.
like, yeah, his pulse is extremely weak. We can barely feel it. We didn't think he had one for a little while. But basically, she looked down and there's all these bloody bandages where they wrapped up his missing legs. He had 2 missing legs.
Mhm.
At the knee. Both of them were gone. And she's like, what happened to this guy? And they're like, well, from what we could tell, he was shot in the chest, left in no man's land for 8 days before they could get him out of there.
Shit.
And the only way they could really get him back to us is if they like straight up just put him on like a freight train and then just like hope it gets to them.
Mhm.
And then they had to like go
Fuck.
get him and like bring him back, right? The thing about it is that he was so frostbitten in his legs,
Oh, wow.
frostbitten, that when they put him on that train and he was totally passed out from the pain and shock,
Mhm.
that on that train ride, his legs fell off.
Ah.
Oh God.
They fell off. And as they were dragging him back, I mean, he's just bleeding out, as they're dragging him back. And like she said that while she was standing there, like looking at this guy, like, in agony, that he said something in Russian, and like none of these people around her are Russian. And she's like, does anyone speak Russian to understand what this man is saying? And one nurse like spoke up and said like, he's asking for his children. And then like he died.
Jesus.
It's like, holy fuck.
Jesus. Do you think that at one point that train is just barreling down the railway and the conductor was like, huh? And the other guy's like, what? And he's like, train just started going just a little bit faster.
Jesus
And that was the moment that the
Oh my
legs
gosh.
came off.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
this guy's legs don't fill off.
I hear them
Just a
legs
little-
are coming.
A little levity
Falling off
there.
the train.
Oh God.
That poor son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But, like this, that happened. Shit like that, similar to that, happened like in World War One, all
Yeah.
the time.
Oh
you know?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That was just. I mean,
It's just a couple of like times, a couple
Yeah.
of things.
yeah.
But
I really hope that she titled her articles "Welcome to War. How can I take your order?"
yeah.
Nice.
The way,
I mean,
dude,
seriously, just fuck, man.
it's insane. Like she talked about this one lady on the train. Like one quick story from this again, and we'll move on. But this one lady she saw on the train, she had a baby with her. Her home was blown up. Her baby was 4 months old. Her husband was off somewhere fighting in the war,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't have anything. She didn't have any food, so she was riding the train until she could get somewhere with food. And she's like, "That's that woman's life. Like,
Mhm.
that's it. Like, just 4-month-old baby. She'd been married, I think, for like 3 years. Her husband's
Mhm.
off. Her home is gone. She has to take care of this baby by herself, like on this freezing dark train. There's no lights on these trains. These are
Right.
like they're dark ass trains. They're crammed full of people, and it's just miserable,
Yeah.
And yeah,
I thought you were gonna end it with like a darker thing, like, and it turns out she was holding a dead baby the entire time.
No,
It turns out that baby was Hitler.
it's Austria. No, but I mean,
What's a
Hitler was
twist?
fighting in the war. So,
He's like,
but
I need to get this baby back. He's got
yeah.
an art career to think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
No, she honestly, she had huge distaste for the British, and I also think something that added to it was she was mistaken for a British spy, and she was arrested, and she
Oh, yeah.
barely made it out with her life because at that time
Monetary
and place,
situation.
if you were accused of being a spy at all, they would straight up just take you to an area, basically out back, and shoot you, and it would be that quick, you know what I mean? So I think it added to that. And she kind of quit journalism for a while during these years to help like these war widows and stuff in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And then the war was over. She was sympathetic to the Austro-Hungarians, and she went back to America, and where her creditors were waiting for her. There were warrants out for her arrest.
Yeah, right as she got off the boat.
Yeah,
right there.
Pretty much, she surrendered to federal marshals and was let out on $1,000 bail. She immediately was basically taken to court. She won, but like her family sued her for moving that money around. It was illegal what she did. They were left penniless from that move.
But was the people who like basically robbed her company blind? Were they doing that? Was that illegal?
Well, yes, there was embezzling.
They did and fucked off.
But they got away with it. So yeah, her mom and her brother sued her. She was no longer really welcome in her family. So she was, even though the courts ruled in her favor, the company was worthless, completely worthless. So she was again alone and penniless in New York City. And she like got a small apartment, I think in Brooklyn, and her friend from back in when she was writing for The World back in those days, he was an editor at the Evening Journal, and he hooked her up with a small, like, I think weekly column. And she actually thrived. She did really well. She like rediscovered why she liked journalism so much. She was kind of she was kind of cantankerous. That's what people said about her in these years.
Blame her. Well, it sounds like part of the appeal.
Yeah. Her style of journalism was almost shunned. Her name, oddly enough, was almost even forgotten by that new generation of journalists, which is super crazy that you could be like tippy top star and then almost forgotten in your own lifetime like that. Decades later.
Jerry, try getting famous on TikTok like me. I was a mega star.
Right.
I mean, the world was my oyster, and
for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Then you got canceled.
Yes.
Well, the dances that he was doing weren't popular anymore.
Yeah. And the things he said about the Queen were a little distasteful.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't help that I said it both before, during, and after.
Oh,
what
yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I was saying it too, but I wasn't famous on TikTok, so nobody cared.
Chris was just shouting it at his
cat. She was actually paid less than half of what she was paid back in the World days, but she had like a nice brownstone. She would hire like poor like working women as secretaries and stuff, and like the other people in like the offices and stuff that she would like come in and out of would like always complain that they were like, there's beggars outside. She's like, those are my employees. And the only people would even remark about this. They would go, but if a woman had like a slight English accent, she'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
Fucking hate the English.
Yeah. It would just it would come back. You know what I mean? She's even
they're like, I'm not English, I'm pretentious.
Yeah.
The original hipsters.
Yeah. She hated the telephone.
I don't care for it either.
She refused to use it except to call the newspaper and like when shit went wrong, and she would bitch out everybody, like straight up from like the editor all the way down, like
put me on speaker.
Yeah.
Which they didn't have at the time.
But yeah, she of course had she was back up to her, social champion of social justice, champion of charity. She was anti-capital punishment. And yeah, she tried her best to take care of people and help charities as well. Now, although her health was sort of failing, I guess, she never slowed down. She didn't sleep very much. She never took a vacation. She never took a day off. and she refused to take medicine or anything like that of any kind because
she was a Christian Scientist.
It was a point of pride. It was like admitting she wasn't tough, you know.
Mhm.
She's like, no.
Oh, so regular Joe Rogan.
She's not eating creatine by the truckload. So she just kind of like really wore herself out. You know what I mean? On January, basically in January of 1922, she caught pneumonia, and she was taken to the hospital, and in the early morning of January 27th, 1922, Elizabeth Cochran Seaman, aka Nellie Bly, passed away. And I think she was. See, I had one source say that she was 53. She was 57 when she died. 57. She is buried in the Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, not alongside, but in the same cemetery as Elizabeth Bisland, who also died of pneumonia, by the way. And
it was Bisland time.
and,
she's like, it's Bisland time. They're like, what? She's like, like business time?
Yeah.
No.
And then she died.
And then she died.
The
joke didn't land? Okay, later. Sorry, Jerry.
And also, Bat Masterson is also buried there as well.
The Bat.
But yeah, that is the life of the truly legendary Nellie Bly.
That was nuts. I like her.
She was amazing.
It's absolutely insane. Yeah.
She went on
Nellie
many
Bly
adventures.
Dressing down St. Peter and God as we speak.
Yeah.
In perpetuity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. She is in the annals of American history, I just think she's one of the most interesting people in American history, period.
Yeah, for sure.
I was curious over the course of the story that, I was like, wow, like, how come nobody's made any movies about this?
Oh,
turns out. Well, I mean, most Nellie Bly related content out there, not the stuff that, me and Zach are into, but but the actual stuff is mostly stuff involving her stay in Blackwell's. There's
Christina
escaping.
Ricci. Christina Ricci plays Nellie Bly in I think a Lifetime movie.
No,
really?
Depicting the Blackwell's Island, 10 Days in a Madhouse.
There's one that has an actress I've never heard of named Caroline Berry, but it also has Christopher Lambert and Kelly LeBrock. That came out in 2015, which feels like yesterday and was almost a decade ago. And then there's one in 2019, and that's the one that has Christina Ricci escaping the madhouse. There's also a 1981 TV movie called The Adventures of Nellie Bly, as well as there's like kind of like a web, like kind of like, I don't know, it's an animated documentary, so it's probably animated stills.
Yeah, it's from the Atlantic, and it's actually done really well, and it focuses on 10 Days in a Madhouse.
Okay, so that's Nellie Bly makes the news.
Yeah, I think that's on YouTube, and I think the Atlantic put that out, I believe.
Yeah,
it's really well done.
So yeah, there is some stuff out there. If you don't feel like reading but you want more Nellie, it's out there.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna post the sources and links to those articles, especially the World War I ones. They're all collected on this one place. I found them all, so I would definitely encourage you to go read some of that stuff. And yeah, our sources. By the way, I don't think I mentioned our sources, but our sources are these. Of course, Nellie Bly, 10 Days in a Madhouse. Nellie Bly, Around the World in 72 Days. And 80 Days by Matthew Goodman. And this is about basically Elizabeth Bisland and Nellie Bly going around the world. Yeah, those are my sources. All great stuff. Go read some Nellie Bly. It's pretty good. It's definitely of a time, but it's pretty good. And yeah, Matthew Goodman's book is great. It really is. Go check that out as well.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
That was a great episode. I thought it was great. I don't know about you guys.
I clearly was not having any fun at all the entire.
Yeah, you.
I love
You
Nellie
can see it
Bly,
on your
yeah.
face. You were just like, I don't like women. I don't like stories about women. And I definitely don't like stories that make women look in any sort of positive light. It was written all over your face, Tyler.
I like stories about
Jedis.
older men dealing with the later stages of their life, and coming to terms with a lot of things. So this was outside the box of what I enjoy.
I like dramedy shows that are about a man who feels insecure in his life, and he learns to take back the power and control, and usually by doing things that are very illegal.
Yeah.
You are an Ayn Rand fan.
I was trying to describe Breaking Bad
and Vince Gilligan, the television programs of Vince Gilligan. Anyway,
can I real quick? Can I address what spooky season is going to be this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, when this episode comes out, it will be my wedding day. I'm gonna get married.
Yes.
When you're listening to this, it will be that day, and I am going to go on a honeymoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I won't really have time to do the spooky season in the way we have done it in the past. I apologize for that. I know it's y'all's favorite. It's our favorite too. We're gonna do something a little different this year, and I think you're gonna enjoy it. I really do. We got some cool shit planned for you. So stay tuned for that. Just wanted to mention that.
And in addition to that, it can't happen again because we're all already married. So sorry, ladies. First of all, second of all, this kind of disruption just can't transpire again.
Yeah. That's right.
If it does, that's paddling.
Yeah. That's a demerit. Yeah.
For every divorce, there's a paddling.
Yeah.
And that is a Simpsons reference.
It is. Anyway, we are the History Boys. I am Christopher Whedon. Thank you for listening, and I'm just gonna sign off. I guess that's what I do. All right.
Okay, bye.
All right. Well, I'm Tyler Armtrout, and I'm also a history boy. I enjoyed the crap out of this episode, and if you did too, there's so many ways you can let us know. You can go to historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to hear. You can also go to our Patreon, sign up for as little as $1 a month. Sign up for $5, get a shout outs. You also get access to the Patreon content for the first 30 days. Do $10. That way you get access to everything before that, the Discord, the shout out, the new episodes of the Patreon stuff, and everything in the vault. Outside of that, just give us a 5-star review, give us a like, give us the thumbs up on the old YouTube. Totally acceptable way. Yeah, give us a follow. If you're listening to this
like button.
if you're listening to us on the Wii U, give us a
Is that a thing?
I think it was. They had their own little social network on there, and you can give people yas. So
I'll yas them.
The one person who gets that, they're gonna be like, "Sweet, Miiverse reference." Anyway, but yeah. So, that's
fucking it.
All right.
And I am Zach Meck. I am a history boy.
You goddamn
I'm also
right.
a traveling boy. So it feels good to be back home, at least for a little while.
Yeah, have you back?
Indeed.
Yes, it is.
And I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy. As always, thank you so much for listening. We love each and every one of our listeners, especially our Patreon listeners. But of course, we do love our lurker, our shadow listeners as well.
The sneaky boys, as I like to call them.
Thank you so much for listening to the show and sharing it with your friends. Again, so you have something to talk about these days, but it's not news. It's it's stuff that is of
it's
course,
old news
that already happened.
Old news. Yes,
It's the olds.
But it's
old
new to
news.
you.
Or maybe you want to, brighten your day. We are here to do that. We are here to brighten your day.
Hear about all the
flex on your
committed.
family because you know something that they don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. And follow us on all the social medias. You know what they are. Mr. Zach Meck.
Love you, bye.
Yay!
Right.